Today I'm going to show you how I would tackle the first main drawing task of the year, and it's sketching out and adding shading to the Frida Kahlo portrait, Thinking About Death. So you can see that I'm starting out by looking at the hairline and just trying to copy the shapes that I can see, just looking at the way that the eye is indented, and just measuring to make sure that I've got the angle of the cheekbone correct. So I'm really lightly sketching everything out. This might not be correct, but this is just a first sketch, and we go into it later and correct it. So looking at the distance of the eye from the side of the face, and then the angle that the nose actually goes down. Just checking the distance of the tip of the nose to the cheek. And then sketching in the top lip and the bottom lip and chin. And as I said, this is really just a very rough sketch to start off with. Just want to make sure I've got things roughly where I want them, but always referring to the actual image. So the eyes are level with each other, just checking that. Looking at the distance between the eyes and how wide the eyes are, and just making some small marks just to indicate there. So just roughly putting the hairline in, and then sort of sketching, looking at those big eyebrows and sketching where they go as well. So this is just a really light first sketch. And the reason we do this is because if we make any mistakes, we can then go in, rub them out and correct them without leaving a dirty mark. Okay, so just adding a few details and sketching in. Working out where the ear is, roughly sketching that in, and then putting the jawline and the neck in. So this is as I say, this is the first light sketch. Putting in the side of the hair, and then again just roughly where the plait loops over the head. Okay, so that's my first rough sketch done. Okay, so next I'm just going to start going over this and correcting now. You can see that I've made the face a tiny bit shorter because I could see that looking at it was a little bit too big, a little too long. But you'll see that from my initial sketch now, I am going to start tweaking and changing things. So there you go, there's the mouth, it was too big. Once I'd corrected that jawline, I could see that the mouth needed to be a little bit smaller. So I'm just redrawing the mouth. And this is all part of good drawing. So it's learning to see and to translate what you see. It's not about achieving perfection. It's a journey. So it's a journey to find something that you're happy with. And the way to do that is just always keep referring to your source image. Always keep looking and keep checking that your measurements are correct. Okay, so you can see that I've redrawn that other eye as well, because it just wasn't quite there. And then just making sure those eyebrows are correct as well. Okay, so I'm just making the drawing a little bit darker, and as I'm doing it, I'm correcting bits that I can see that I've gone wrong. So I do all of this before I start even thinking about adding any shading in. Okay, I'm just sketching in a bit at the top. Okay, so I'm happy with that, and the next thing I'm going to do now is think about shading. It might not look exactly the same, but this is as good as it's going to get today. So you'll see here I've got an HB pencil. Now this is our standard school pencil, and I've also got a 2B. Now I'll show you in a minute how these differ when you come to shading. So the 2B is going to give you a much blacker mark. So what I like to do is when I've got black in an image or really dark shading, I always like to use a softer pencil. So you can see that this is the 2B, it gives me a nice black, and then that's the HB. You can just about see that it's a slightly lighter. So what I like to do is I like to use the HB for my skin tone and shading, and where I know I'm going to go really black, I'm going to use the 2B. And obviously if you use a 6B, that's going to go even darker. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the blackest bits I can see. So going in with the eyelashes, you can see I've made a mistake already, so I'm just rubbing that out. So I'm darkening up all of the bits I can see in the eye. Now, even if you can't see it very clearly, I do zoom in a minute, there are some highlights in the eye. So as they say, the eyes are the windows of the soul. So you really do want to make sure that the eyes look three-dimensional, that there's a shine on there, that any shadow is on there as well. Okay, so I'm just going in with my darkest tones around the eyelid, just underneath the eye, just to make those eyes come to life a little bit more. And then I'm going to swap over, as you'll see in a minute, to my HB, because this is going to, for the skin, because we want the skin to look nice and smooth, we're going to achieve a lighter shading tone by using the HB rather than the B. It just gives you a smoother, more, just a lighter grey tone, as long as you don't press too hard. So I'm literally looking at the picture to see where the darkest bits are, and I'm just shading. The highlight on the portrait, you can see it's like a yellow colour. So wherever I can see the pale yellow colour, I'm not shading. And everywhere else is either going to get a pale grey, or if it's slightly darker colour, it's going to get a darker grey. So that top lip on the right-hand side is light, so I'm not shading that. But you can see that I'm trying to differentiate, go lighter or darker, by looking at the image. Just trying to match the light and the dark, the shading tones that I can see. So the nose is a lot of different tones. People find noses quite difficult because they're made up of highlights and shadows. And remember, we're trying to create the illusion that this nose is three-dimensional, that it's coming off the page. So you really need to look very carefully at where the light and the dark is. There's a tiny little highlight on the nostril, just above the nostril. So I'm going to leave that white. Okay, so I've the filtrum, which is the little shape above the lip, I've shaded in dark because it's dark on the image. And then I'm going to go start adding some shading to the eyes. So I'm swapping my pencil for a 2B, so I can get those really nice dark tones. And again, leaving my highlight. Okay, so I'm just zooming in now so you can see a little bit more clearly what I'm talking about. Okay, make sure you can see everything. So again, there's a shadow on the eyeball, so I'm just putting that in. Darkening up those eyelashes. And then putting the dark line around the eyelids. I'm going to swap now because I want to do all of my gentle skin tone shading. So if you can get hold of a 2B pencil, it's quite, or any B pencil really, you'll see the difference between that and a standard HB pencil when it comes to achieving those darker tones. But an HB or any type of H pencil is brilliant for really, really light shading. So I like to sort of toggle between the two. Okay, so if you look at the image, you'll see that the left-hand side, the top lip, the skin above the top lip is actually quite dark, but there's a sort of a yellow highlight above the top lip, so I've left that white. Now sort of doing a nice grey tone for the mouth. And this is going to start bringing the whole thing together. So I'm not going to finish this portrait. I just really wanted to show you how, first of all, how to sketch out the portrait, and secondly then, how to use different pencil tones to sort of try to recreate the shading that you can see. Don't be afraid, once you've got your drawing done, don't be afraid to press really hard on those black bits and consider using a B pencil. Okay, so it's all about practice. It's all about, the more you do drawing, the more you actually have a go at copying things, the easier it gets. Okay, drawing is a skill like any other skill, like riding a bike or driving a car. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the more confident you will become. So have a go at this, see how you get on, and I look forward to seeing what you create in the classroom. So just finishing off the eyebrows. And then I could obviously add a lot more skin tone and a lot more to the hair, and the pattern on the clothes, etc. But this is just to illustrate how you might deal with this image, this 3/4 view portrait.